What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Today, I want to talk to you about Slaine by Pat Mills and Mike McMahon. This is a comic book character from the British comic book series 2000 AD, which you may have heard of. This is the series that Judge Dredd first appeared in, and I believe has been appearing in ever since he first appeared. And this character is basically Irish Conan the Barbarian. So if you like Conan the Barbarian, you are probably going to like Slaine. Now, I like Conan the Barbarian, and I didn't really care for this book. First, I want to complain about how Titan Books chose to package this particular comic. We have here on the spine, it says Slaine, Book 1. That would imply to me that this is the very first Slaine story. Maybe I'm just cuckoo bananas, but that seems like a logical leap. But then after I read this, and I was a little confused because this did not seem like the first Slaine story. This seemed like we were kind of jumping into the middle of something bigger. I looked on Wikipedia, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened. There are several stories that come out before this featuring the character of Slaine. I have no idea what they were smoking and who was smoking it when they decided to collect something that looks like it came out a year or two after the character of Slaine first appeared, and then call that Book 1. So that miffed me just a little bit. But also, this is only 64 pages long. I feel like they could have collected a little bit more with this and made a bigger book here. Maybe it's because I'm used to American graphic novels and trade paperbacks where they will collect usually about 6 issues in a trade paperback, and each issue is about 22 pages long, so that's going to be like twice as big as this graphic novel at minimum. Sometimes it will be even longer than 6 issues, but this is only 64 pages. Some of the average issues, they call them progs with 2000 AD. Each issue is called a prog, like a program. So each prog, some of them are only like 8 pages long. But basically, what's going on here, like I said, this is basically Irish Conan. This is set sometime in the Dark Ages in the 5th century, and you've got this barbarian guy, looks a whole lot like Conan the Barbarian, and he goes around and he kills his enemies, and he's got this little dwarf who follows him around. They call him a dwarf, but really he looks about the same size as some of the other people who are not 12-foot tall shirtless barbarian characters, so I don't know if he's actually a dwarf or if that's just what they call him, but he's his companion. He reminds me a lot of some of the companions that Conan traveled with in the Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, specifically the guy who played Bob the Goon in Batman 1989. And this guy, Slaine, at one point, he's hanging out in this village. He gives them his pet woolly mammoth to eat because they're all starving, and then these evil sorcerers come in and kill a few of these people, and then one of the evil sorcerers says, "Hey, Slaine, you're going to come with me and be my bodyguard, or else we're going to exterminate this entire village." And then Slaine is this guy's bodyguard, and we find out that this evil sorcerer guy is planning to stop the end of the world, and then Slaine lets this guy get eaten by worms. So that's basically what happens. Like I said, this is not a very long comic book. The thing that put me off of this the most, other than finding out that this is called Book 1 when it's not really Book 1, I didn't find that out until after I read the whole thing, but during reading it, I was really put off by the art. I don't know if I have ever read anything by Mike McMahon before, but this art is a little disturbing, and it's not anything in particular here that I could point to and say, isn't this a little gross? Isn't this something that will give you nightmares? There's nothing in particular that I can point to and say, look at that. And in fact, I have seen other artists draw more disgusting stuff in comic books before, but for some reason, the particular style here was just kind of something that gave me the willies a little bit, and I don't have a good reason for thinking that, but I think that if the art was a little bit more crisp here and a little bit easier to decipher, I would have been much more on board with this. Now, ultimately, I still would have been a little upset that they're giving us what's probably like Book 6 and calling it Book 1. I still wouldn't have been happy about that, but if the art made it a little easier to tell some of these characters apart, then I think I would have been a lot more on board. But it's very scratchy, and it's very difficult for me to explain what I mean. And part of my problem also is that this is in black and white. And I'm going to sound like a big hypocrite because I usually don't have a problem with black and white comics. You've got some comics that were intended to be black and white. I don't have a problem with that. And then sometimes you have black and white reprints reprints of comics that were initially intended to be in color, and I know a lot of people really hate that. I don't have a problem with that either. I've got a lot of those essential books that Marvel used to do, where it's like 500 pages of comics that were at one time in color and are now being reprinted in black and white. I was all over those because it was a really inexpensive way to get a huge swath of the Marvel Universe, and I really liked that. But for some reason, with this particular art style, it being in black and white makes it a little difficult for me to tell what's going on sometimes. You've got a whole bunch of really big shirtless barbarian characters, and a lot of them kind of look the same. The first issue or prog that we have collected here is kind of Slaine's origin story, I guess, which might be why they thought that they should call this book 1, even though this still isn't the first Slaine story, and I'm still a little salty about that, as you can tell. But it's his origin story, and there's a couple of characters. One of them is Slaine, the other one is a guy trying to kill Slaine. They both look exactly the same. I think if this was in color, I think that they could have done more to have made this guy look a little bit different than that guy. Maybe give this guy a different color hair, or give him some tattoos that look a little bit more unique than what Slaine has. Something like that. But at one point, this guy tries to throw this weird, very painful looking spear at Slaine, and I thought that Slaine was about to kill an innocent guy. But no, it's the other guy trying to kill Slaine. And then later on, we have Slaine fighting all these Vikings, and again, all these Vikings kind of sort of look the same. Now, they do have a few marks that kind of distinguish them a little bit, but it was a little difficult telling, okay, hasn't Slaine already killed that guy? There's a lot of that going on here, where I think the artist could have... I don't want to say that they rushed it, because I don't know if they did, but it feels like, okay, we're just going to like do a lot of really scratchy, loose marks on the page, and I really wish they took their time a little bit more. And again, I don't know if they rushed it, but it kind of feels like they did. Just take their time a little bit more, and then maybe make it look like this character is a little bit different from that character. I don't know. I was really interested in checking this character out and reading more about Slaine. I don't know if there are other collections featuring this character. This particular printing was done back in the 1990s. I'm sure by now they have done some more complete collections, and probably they've done collections actually in order featuring this character. But after reading this, I'm not sure if I want to keep reading this character. I was interested in this. I like stories set in this time period. King Arthur, a lot of those stories are set around this time. I am a huge King Arthur fan. I thought I was going to be really into this. I usually like sword and sorcery barbarian stories, but this one just didn't do it for me. So those are my thoughts on Slaine Book 1. I hope that you guys liked this review, and if you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will be back later in the week with another video. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.